He's such a needy dog, you are. Hmm?
Why is it not giving me? It is not let me share on this group. Well, if it doesn't let me do that, what I can do is I can just share it directly to my page and then share the link into the group.
Yeah, I have no idea how to do this stuff, so.
Well, you see, the Almanac page was started by 3 people, but they kind of got busy and they didn't really do anything with it anymore. And so, literally like just today, I was like, hey, can you, let me stop recording. It doesn't matter. Okay. So now that we have that, every time it's like something different that I need to like somehow figure out. I need like a secretary. That's what I need. To go in and just I don't know why it changes like every time. So
I
I
think it's
guess what
just
I will,
Facebook.
yeah, I'm sure that they turn on all kinds of like things to try and keep you from sharing outside of their program. But honestly, like I've said this before, when we were trying to just do this direct from Facebook, it was a mess. And I could
Yeah.
never get the people on. Oh, there it is. I could never get the people to be able to log in. Like if they were logging in from anything but their phone, it just wouldn't let them on. And it
Yeah.
was a mess. So I will try and pay attention to these 2 feeds and try and catch any questions that people have. So, and then I'll just interject when there is a question. So, welcome everybody to the Kettlebell Sport Almanac. I have Cindy Rella with us today, and we were
Hello.
just gonna chit chat about, we just came back from the World Championship in Poland with WKSF. And so we were just gonna kind of chat about what it's like at a World Championship, what you should expect, especially for people who've never been before. It is definitely a different experience than a normal competition. So Cindy, why don't you just tell us about yourself and how awesome you are?
Yeah, okay. Anyway, yes, my name is Cindy Rella. It wasn't my birth name. I actually did change my surname by default, just because of stuff that was happening in my life. I didn't want to keep my surname. And yeah, it sort of became Lady Cinderella, all sparkly me. And I've pretty much been an athlete for, I'd have to say about 30 years now. I'm almost 52. So I sort of started karate when I was about 21 and slowly, or not slowly, actually quickly went through the ranks and started representing Australia with karate and did that for quite a few years and got to my 4th dan and somebody in training kicked me in the knee and got kicked in the knee, shattered my knee, and just couldn't go back to karate. It was something that I loved doing, and I just needed something to train for. So I took up boxing, and that was a bit of fun for a while. But then I got sick of punching people in the face, and then I decided to one day I
Let's
was
just be
having a
clear.
few.
Nobody, because I used to do Muay Thai and I started out a little bit doing boxing. Nobody actually likes it's like
No.
you just have to not mind getting punched in the face so much that you enjoy doing the boxing part of it.
Yeah.
But nobody
Yeah.
actually likes getting punched in the face.
No.
It's not definitely not the
No.
enjoyable part.
No. Well, I guess I still love martial arts. I think it's an amazing amazing art form, and it's, you know, it's how I learned about the body, and I really love watching it now. I can't do it because I know that I get so excited, and I just, yeah, anyway, that's going off track. But yeah, so then I decided one day after a few beers, I'd sign up to do an Ironman, and I then quickly realized that you have to swim doing an Ironman, and I couldn't swim at all. I had a massive fear of water, so I did that. I was at 42, and very quickly had to learn how to swim and how to ride a bike and how to run, especially on a knee that I'd, yeah, blown out my ACL, and you know, had a couple of operations on it. So I did that and faced my fear of swimming, and in my first half Ironman race, managed to podium and qualify for the World Championship. So then I went from karate representing Australia to Ironman representing Australia. And then something happened in the Ironman World Championships where I completely cooked my body and broke down, and it just kind of created this other effect of, I knew I had to finish this race, and I started helping people along the way to finish the race because they were all breaking down as well. And then yeah, that just started this whole other journey for me. And then once I finished Ironman, I still felt like I needed something, and I was never lifted weights or anything, and went along to watch the Arnolds, and Shannon and Cheryl from GSA Australia were competing, and so they said, you know, come along and watch. So I went along to watch, and I watched this big Russian guy throwing around 232s, and I was like, what is this guy doing? And I went up to him, I said, that was fantastic. And he goes, when's your flight? And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere, because I had no idea about kettlebell sport. He goes, no, when are you lifting? I said, I'm not lifting. And he grabbed my hands and my forearms and goes, no, you must lift. So I'm like, no, I'm not doing this stuff. I was always that old school, which was stupid because became a personal trainer, and it was that I bulk up just looking at weights. So I'm like, I'm going to turn out like massive Arnie if I start lifting kettlebells. So I'm like, there's no way I'm going to lift weights. It just scared the shit out of me. And then it's set that seed, and yeah, it kind of just started from there. And I think the culmination of all my sports over the years kind of fits in well with me doing kettlebell sport, and it all just enabled me to start lifting and start enjoying it, and yeah, just pushing myself to see what I'm capable of. And I love it. For me, kettlebell sport's a safe space. Like when you're on that platform, it's just you. There's nobody can contact you, no one can ring you, no one can text you, there's no emails. I find this kind of complete joy when I'm on the platform. And yeah, I just love kettlebell sport, and I can't see myself doing anything else, because I enjoy it so much.
One of my students calls that tired body, clear mind. It's just like once you go through and you do a kettlebell set, there's so much mental focus that goes into it. And, you know, obviously your body is going through stress as well. And when you get done, like, it's like you can't stress about anything. You're not worried about the bills. You're not worried about what you have to do at work tomorrow, you know, and you just have this nice little relaxed state.
Yeah, it's like
So
it's those now moments. It's like you're now. It's nothing. Not worrying about what's happened, what's coming. You have to worry about now, because if you don't, that thing's going to hit you in the head, which it has done with me.
I've had that too. Not very often, but it has hit me. I've never
Yeah,
gotten like hurt, but it has hit me before.
yeah.
If anybody doesn't know, if you ever go to a world competition, more than likely Cindy will be there, and she'll be doing like almost every lift. I think at the last one she did like 5 different lifts. And if you don't do kettlebell
Yeah.
sport, you know, all these are 10-minute sets, and then some of them are 30-minute sets, which is half marathon. It's very draining to do those sets. So to do multiple
Mm,
sets within a championship or a tournament or a competition, it's a lot. So I mean,
mm.
it's mentally draining. Not only is your body getting tired, but like just your central nervous system, and you know, your ability to continue to want to fight, you start to lose that when uh funny story. It's not really funny, but so I did 3 lifts at Worlds, and my very last lift, which was snatch with the 24, I was like standing back there and I was so tired. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. And one of the guys from the team was standing there. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I think I'm gonna cry." He's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna cry." I was like, "I'm not going to, but I'm feeling like I'm going to cry." I was like, I do not want to go do this. I mean, I went and did it, but I was just like, I don't want to do this at all.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably the reaction I have every time. It's like I am tired, but I know like the fight for me to be able to get on the platform, and like every night, every time I'm up there, I know that I'm going to enjoy it, but it's that whole being able to get myself to there, and Sylvia, my partner, and I have this like it's almost like a flow now that he knows how to get me to relax and to breathe to get me up there. And then once we do that, I go, right, I'm ready to go. And there'll be a couple of tears, but that's for me, that's just a normal process and a normal release. But yeah, I think he's my superpower when I get to lift so many lifts. So
I mean,
it's not about
well,
you.
let's go ahead and we'll kind of go into talking about the world competition because I
Yeah.
agree. I think that's super
Yeah.
important to have somebody that kind of knows like your style, like what you're doing, the numbers you're trying to hit. They know what your stressors are to kind of help you work through that. And you don't always necessarily have a coach there to be like, okay, this is what our focus is. Okay, so I know you've competed both at the WKSF and the IUKL, which are 2 large organizations that offer world competitions.
Yeah.
And so by so kind of let's walk through, well, how do they do qualifications for Australia?
Australia, we actually have a quite a stringent qualifying process. So it's not just um, turn up and lift and get some numbers and that's kind of it. We during the year we have open events, and we have a state of origin, and we also have nationals. So at the open event, depending on which whether you're lifting elite or amateur veteran, you have to reach a certain rank. So obviously numbers, you've got to reach a certain numbers to get that rank. You have to have rank 1 or above for amateur in an open. Then you have to compete at the state of origin, and you also have to compete at nationals. If you for amateur and veteran, if you tick those 3 boxes, you go through to the world championships. Then for professional, you have to get CMS or above before nationals, and you also have to have competed at the open state of origin, and at nationals you actually have to win or be the top 2 in your weight class to be able to be selected to be in the elite division. And the rank numbers are actually quite high in Australia, and I think that kind of when we go to the World Championships and the Australians are succeeding, I think that's probably why, because that process is so high to achieve those ranks. And yeah, look, it's hard, but I kind of, yeah, I think it's a good way for us to be able to, yeah, get to the world. So at least you know when you go, you're you're
Yeah.
you know that you're kind of there. So
So
yeah,
basically for in a lot of countries, I mean, each country varies on how they do their
yeah,
qualifiers, but for each organization, there is basically a representative that runs some kind of national, some kind of qualifier, that a lifter would have to go basically find who that person is or that organization so they can go lift at that nationals or the qualifying event, and so they can qualify for worlds. So at worlds, there's a professional division, there's an amateur division, and then there's basically open, which is all age brackets, and then there are masters divisions. So for the professional division, you're only allowed to have 2 lifters in each weight category in each lift. So if you are, 68 kilogram weight class and you're lifting either for women at WKSF, they have 2 professional categories. They have 20 kilogram and they have 24 kilogram. And then the men have 32 kilogram. So they can have 2 lifters in each one of those. And then for the amateur lifters, you're allowed to bring as many as you like. And so you can have as many people in each weight class as you want, as well as for the veterans. And so the only one that's very stringent is just for the professionals, because there's just 2 in each one. And then, so basically you figure out where nationals is going to be, and then you go to qualifiers, you get qualified, and then you start setting up like flights and getting to the competition. And they've had them in various places. This last one was in Poland. The time before that, we were in Hungary. They've been in Latvia, and there's one in Greece.
What was it?
There's one in
Portugal?
Scotland one year.
Yeah.
So they're kind of all over, and each year they decide to have it in a new location. So then when you show up to the competition, you have to make sure that you make your weight. So they are very stringent about weighing in. So talk about your experience with doing weigh-ins. Because most people, like, if you've never had to strip down in front of somebody before, you're like, I'm sorry, what? I'm in the Army, so like we have to do like stuff like that all the time. So it's not as big of a deal. But some people are like, I'm sorry, I don't know these people. You want me to strip down?
Yeah. Look, every time I've weighed in, it's been a different process each time. So stripping down for me, I've when you've seen one, you've seen them all. You're just like, but it's when you get to when you're over 50, it's like it is what it is. You're just gonna see whatever you want, just
You
turn
look
around if you
good
don't
for
want to
a
look.
50-year-old woman, okay? So don't
Thank
like.
you. Yeah, so sometimes you could be I actually always say the weigh-in day is the hardest day out of every day on a championship. That will be the hardest process, because there's this nervous energy, and you're like, am I going to make weight? Am I not going to make weight? Even when you're way under what, because the weight classes can be, they
And
can
you
be
don't know
10
what their scale
kilograms.
is going to be like, right?
Yeah, so
Or like
yeah.
one year,
And
we weighed in on carpet at a competition, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm 7 pounds lighter today. I mean, everybody was.
yeah,
So, but like you don't really know. And at the world competitions, you have to weigh in at the weight you competed in. So
yeah.
if you are in a 58 kilogram class and you come in under 58 kilograms and you fall into the lower weight class, in order for you to be able to lift the next day, you have to your team captain has to go to the organizer and has to say, hey, we are going to pay in order to move this lifter to a different weight class because they didn't qualify. And so basically you have to repay your registration fee, which is like anywhere from 40 to $80 or euros, not dollars, but 40 to 80 euros. So it is really important, and it is very nerve-wracking unless
Yeah.
you're big like me and you don't
And
have
you
to
just
worry about it.
it's like
You just be in
yeah.
the big weight class. But yeah, it is. And we had quite a few people that, we had one girl that ended up underweight. And so she's in there like chugging water, trying to make weight.
Yeah, and
Whole
it's not
thing.
as easy as just whacking on your shoes or a t-shirt to put you up. Like you
Right.
have to be in your bras and undies for females, and obviously undies for men. So it's not that easy to hide or to put on weight.
Put some
So
lead in your underwear. Maybe you can get some of those like Kegel balls. They're going to be like, oh, that's a thing. Like, okay, we're going to start checking for that.
Oh geez, no.
So, you get there on the first day, your team gets registered, your
Yeah,
team captain
yeah.
picks up all of your lanyards with your athlete card on it that you wear when you're at the competition. And then all the teams line up, and then you get in line to start weighing in. And you're right, that is like the hardest day because
Oh,
you're just standing in line for hours. waiting to weigh in, because they
Mm.
basically take 2 to 3 people. Honestly, when at first I saw it, it's like one, and then people start getting like impatient. So then like people are going in 3 at a time so they can change and be already ready to stand on the scale. And then they have to verify your
Yeah.
lifts while you're in there and make sure you're at weight. So that part is like just standing in line, waiting. You're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. I think
so
you use more energy with that nervousness beforehand to weigh in. And yeah, so I think the being prepared for that is I think crucial, because that can impact you the next day as well. If you're lifting the next
mhm.
day, it doesn't give you enough time to sort of recoup that lost energy. So it's I think
And
that's
for
a
people that are cutting weight because they're trying to make weight,
mm,
so I mean, make sure that when you come to the competition that you bring food and water with you. So as soon as you get done weighing in, you can get something in your system, get some water in, get some, some kind of electrolyte, salt. Because a lot of times they don't have anything in the competition area that day, because nothing's really happening at the competition. Um,
mm.
so what do you feel like are some good tips, like when you arrive the very first day of the competition, when you're doing weigh-ins and all that stuff, like kind of what do you usually do when you come in?
Um, I like to just try and stay as relaxed as I can and just have fun. And for me, it's usually you're catching up with people you haven't seen for 12 months. So for me, I love coming to World Championships, so I get to see everyone that I haven't seen, because you see everyone on Facebook, and it's nice to see people in person. So for me, that relaxes me, catching up with people, and or just sit around on the floor. This year, all the Aussies just sat around, and we actually, because obviously Australia is so big, a lot of people we don't really know that well, so we sort of sat around in a circle, having to answer questions to sort of get to know each other. And yeah, so it was, just, I think, just trying to stay relaxed, and sort of getting a feel of, if there's a kettlebell there, just pick up the kettlebell and have a couple of swings, because that actual tactile touch kind of, for me, brings my system back down and calms me as well, and just gets rid of a bit of that nervous energy. Having a look at the platforms, what the setup is, and just sort of, I guess I do a little bit of visualization, just to sort of see what, in my head, what it's going to look like on the day. And yeah, just sort of getting a feel of, not allowing yourself to get nervous, but just soaking it all in. Just, because for me, every time I go, I don't take it for granted that, it could be my last time. So I want to
Mhm.
soak in everything that's there, because it's, nothing's a given. Anything can happen, that you might not get the chance to do it again. So make every yeah make the best opportunity of your time there, and get to meet the athletes, and get to know the people that are around you. And then I find that relaxes me. And then obviously getting closer and closer to the weigh in, you sometimes, because you're so hangry or dehydrated, your brain just starts to you know go elsewhere. And it's just trying to bring it back to the present, and try and stay as present as you possibly can during that process. And not, it's out of your control, so you got to accept what it is, and just kind of go with that flow. And everyone's in that same boat, so just try and just understand that's the process, and it will be over with, and you can eat as soon as possible.
So I think it's a good point
Yeah.
too, like when you get there, yeah, definitely. Well, especially because a lot of people have
Mm.
just flown in, or you've taken a train in or whatever, to go pick up the bells, do a couple reps, kind of see what the bells feel like. Because a lot of times they're different than the bells that you have been training with, whether maybe the bells that you train with are hollow on the inside. So the distribution of weight is different. The window of the kettlebell opening could be smaller. And so the way your hand fits
Yeah.
into the bell is different.
Yeah.
24 kilograms is 24 kilograms, but it's not really. It definitely
Yeah, and that's
can
that's
be very
a
different.
that's a big thing that I learnt. I think last year, was because I'm so used to lifting with kettlebell kings, and it's that you know, they're hollow and the weight distribution's nice, and I'm so used to their window that last year, for some reason, because we used the same bells the year before, but last year it was completely different. So overhead, it took a lot more energy to stabilize the bell. So this year I actually found the shittiest bells I could possibly find to train with. So when I got there, I was prepared for anything. So, and that's I think a good thing is to train with multiple bells so then when you do get to a championship, you're not taken by surprise. You're prepared for those changes with the bells, because it can make a massive difference. So
and it can get in your head. So you also talked about getting up on the platform. So I think that's like a really important one to know. So every world championship is different because it really just depends on how each country who's hosting it sets it up. I mean, it's kind of relatively the same, but there are variations. And it's cool when you get there because it's always so much more grand than probably any other competitions that you've lifted at. But to kind of, before the competition starts, to get up on the platform, see where the timers are, because I'm used to looking up, right? And some of these timers, depending on where the judge is, you maybe have to look down, or maybe the timer is far enough out that you can look straight on. And so to kind of get that in your head and to visualize. Also, there was the one year that I think it was in Hungary, that the platforms were really bouncy.
Yeah.
Or was
I can't
that
remember.
in Portugal?
Portugal,
It was either
because Carissa, someone had dropped
yeah,
232 kilos. So the platform was broken. And yes, I saw that and I knew that was my platform.
I was
So
on that platform and it was super bouncy. And
yeah.
so the way the stage was set up, it was already, because it's on an elevated stage, right? And you've got all these people up there and they're all holding all this weight and bells. There's also bells on the stage because when each platform basically has its own set of bells. So that way, when you get up there, you just go pull the bell from your own platform that you're assigned to, and you take it behind a little thing and chalk it and sand it or whatever. But the platforms can feel different because they're not on the ground. And so especially, you'll know before you go to the competition what flight you are, what platform you're going to be on there, and actually to go up and stand on your platform and, do a couple like mock jerks or mock cleans or snatches and see how the platform feels. Because like in Portugal, it was very bouncy and you almost had to stand all the way to the back of the platform where you're almost falling off in order to stay away from that bounce. Because you would, especially with heavy bells, you would hit and then the platform would, bounce, and it would really like, especially when you get it overhead, it would really alter the way you were jerking, as well as when you're pushing down into the floor for the initiation of the jerk. It was absorbing, some of your energy that you're exerting down into the floor. So you're losing a little bit of power. And
And then
so
if you're one of your competitors is quite heavy on their heels as well, that would affect. So you kind of almost would get a double bounce like on a trampoline, but on a smaller level. So you had to take that into consideration as well. Because of my knee, I have to be very light on my heels. I can't jam my heels in too hard.
which is why I'm
So when
guessing you don't wear lifting shoes.
I actually in my shoes, people don't see it, but I've got these insoles called Naboso. So they stimulate your proprioception. So I have to feel where my feet are on the ground, and that for me they've been a game changer. Because I actually redid my ACL because I had my ACL repair. And in Serbia, I actually redid my ACL lifting in the last minute. And that actually changed the way I lifted. It actually made me a better lifter because I was very wide and very deep in my second dip. And then because I didn't want to have my ACL fixed, so I had to adapt how I lifted, and putting those insoles in my shoes. They're very, very thin. And they've been a game changer for me because now I can actually feel what's happening with my feet. on the
Mhm.
platform. So yeah, they've been a game changer for me. So I know some people
Okay.
prefer lifting shoes, but for me, I'm like the barefoot bandit. I literally have to feel everything. So look, it works for me. I
I'm
think
gonna get
that
you a
yeah,
shirt that says that, Barefoot Bandit. So, okay, so we'll move on from, so you got the
yeah,
first day where you come in, get all your stuff, get your weigh-in done. Weigh-ins usually go pretty late, where you don't get done till 6 or 7 o'clock, just
mm,
depending on the competition. Now, I will say, since we were talking about the platforms, in Poland, that was not a problem with the platforms.
they were
WKSF did
beautiful.
a great job. They were great platforms. It honestly, as far as like lifting environment, it was absolutely wonderful. So
Yeah,
so somebody said they also love the, is Naboso insoles.
yeah,
Also,
yeah.
Ginger said that you're a rock star. I didn't read that earlier, but
Thanks,
so
Ginger.
then we move so then we move into the next day, which is the first day of lifting, which is going to be the long cycle day. So all the long cycles will go first. It'll be amateurs, and then the very last lifts of the day will be the professional lifts. And yeah, they didn't know, because were there some lift after that was it
Yeah.
after the
So yeah,
professional?
usually yeah, amateur, masters, and then the
Mhm.
professionals. And then they did at the end of the day they did the was it? No, that was on the Saturday they did the relays. Yeah.
Yeah. So then when it's your turn to lift, you'll basically have to go back to the lifting area. So you don't really get a chance, you do get a chance to warm up. I shouldn't say that, but you just know that you're not going to be able to do your traditional warm up stuff. So if your
Mm,
traditional warm up thing is that you do 15 minutes with the light bells before you start doing your 10-minute set, you're not going to get to do that unless you bring your own bells with you. So I think it's 15 minutes. Is that how 15 minutes, 30 minutes?
they give you three flights. You're not allowed to go into marshalling, um, let any more than three flights before your lift. Just
So
because
it's
there's
about, so you'll
not
have
enough,
about 30 minutes, right? There's not enough
yeah,
bells back there.
maximum.
So
Yeah,
in the warm-up area, which is basically the corralling area that they get the lifters prior to the lift, there'll be some bells back there. You'll need to bring down your own chalk and sanding items, water, whatever. And then it's usually a good idea to bring a partner with you so
yeah,
that you can have somebody, because you get ready for it to be your turn, they're going to line you up in order of platform. Then they take you out to take a picture. Usually at that point, they will let your partner or your assistant go up on the platform and start chalking bells, because you only really have 2, maybe 3 minutes to get both
yeah,
bells chalked, which can be a problem for people that are going in those first couple flights, because a lot of times at these competitions, it's like brand new kettlebells. So they've never been sanded, they've never been chalked before. And so your person that's up there has got to like rush the shit out of it, try and get them sanded. If you brought sanding paper, so bring sanding paper with you, sand them down, and then do the fastest chalk job they've ever done.
mm,
Which some people are very particular, like they're like no water, and you're like, but
yeah.
sometimes you don't have enough time to really get the bell warmed up to, I keep doing these to get the bell warmed up to do uh a normal chalking, like you would get it
Mm.
built up without water. So
Yeah,
uh,
I've mastered that process now. And that was just years in the making of knowing that when you do have that short window to chalk a bell, I started training that. So in my sets at home, um, when I get 2 minutes rest in between sets, I actually re-chalk my bell. So I train it like I'm doing it at the World Championships, and yeah, I've got it down pat now. So
so this is Ginger just commented on something. So for Ginger's set, for her marathon set, so embarrassing. So I at this world championship, they were very particular about who is allowed to go back with you to be in the warm-up area. And they were only allowing people that they had written down as coaches prior to, which was a problem because we had only written down like 1 or 2 people, because it normally doesn't matter. Like you can have anybody you want go chalk, and they've never made a big deal about it in the past. And this time they were being very strict about it. And so I was like running back and forth. Finally, we kind of just wrote coach on people's name tapes, and they were letting them do it. But the first part of the competition, I was like running back and forth so I could chuck everybody's bells. I got a lot of steps in that day. But during Ginger's set, I totally forgot to bring water up there with me. And so I had the chalk and I had absolutely no water. And I for sure did have to spit in my hand. So I
Is that payback for Hungary?
it should be. So yeah, we were up there and I was like, Ginger, I don't have any water. And she was like, okay. And I was like, I can spit in my hand if you're okay with it. And she's like, just do it. And I'm like, and then I just realized like I really had not drank that much water. I really didn't have that much saliva in my mouth. So then I was like trying to get something going. So she just was like, she's like, just just spit on it.
And that's like a whole meme at the moment, that haktua.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
We got the bell chalked. It worked out okay. I was just like, I don't know if there's enough fluid in my hand to really do anything with this. Yeah, so so basically you'll have those 2 minutes, you get to go up there. There's a little like usually a little placard that kind of, because there's the platform, and then behind that will be all the bell sets that are for your platform. And then there's a little placard that kind of has like a bin behind it. Now, some competitions, they have chalk. Not that often. This one, I was surprised they had chalk there, but most competitions do not provide chalk, sanding paper, anything behind to get your bell ready. So if you're traveling, that's something that people are going to, that's something that you're going to want to bring with you, is the chalk that you normally use. And you may want to bring a little bit extra than what you think you're going to need, because other people will forget or not bring chalk, and you will be a good teammate and you will provide chalk to them. And then make sure you bring sanding paper. We usually use like the metal grinding ones, because they're like thin sheets of metal rather than like the actual wooden sandpaper, just because they stay together better. But one person I saw did regular sanding paper and then put duct tape on the back. And I was like, that is so smart. So it wouldn't rip.
Yeah, I actually used a plaster sanding paper. I find that I think the metal one's good, but I generally will do that first and then use the plaster one over the top, because it kind of gives it a little bit more smoother. So for me, the chalk sticks to it better. That's just what I use. But again, everyone's different. Every bell's different. It depends on how much iron they've got in it as well, to how the magnesium chalks up. My kettlebell kings are harder to chalk than I've got iron edge ones, where the chalk just, like, you look at it and it chalks up. So again, it's been knowing, I even found some of the bells this time. Because I was chalking everyone's bells, because I know that I'm the chalking master and I can get it done quick. And I went to do Alessandro's for the marathon, and no matter what I tried, that bell was just not going to chalk. That's
like the worst feeling.
Oh,
and then at some point you're just like, you feel like a failure. You're just gonna figure it out.
Yeah, and what it is, and again, that you've got to be prepared for those sort of things. If you're so used to having so much chalk and having all that preparation time for your bell, the world's like, you might not get any time to chalk, and you might have a bell that's going to have no chalk. So you actually have to learn to adapt as you go along and not let that rattle you. Is that, well, okay, that's what I've got, that's what I have to work with. And I think that's a important thing too, is and I think why I have been so successful is that I'm the master of adaptation. I have to flip the script every time, because anything can happen, and you just got to stay calm and just go, okay, cool, this is happening. I can't control it. I've just got to work with it. I mean, doing 30 minutes at the Worlds with no timer, that's hard. But you
Yeah.
can't let that get to you. You can't put the bell down and go, I'm done. Let's stop the competition until my timer's working. It's like, well, that's what you've got. Just go, okay, cool.
Mhm.
That's what I've got, and go with it. So yeah.
So I think another important thing
Mm.
that I noticed some people had, because usually like we have spray bottles at the gym, but at
Mm.
competitions, I usually just take a bottle of water and I just kind of get it on my shirt. But I saw a couple people that had just like the travel size bottles, spray bottles
Yeah,
that you would use for like hairspray or something.
yeah.
And I was like, oh,
That's
that's a
what I
great
had.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
I usually am ghetto. I just take a bottle of water up there. I'm like, this
yeah,
is good. And I just
yeah.
so another thing to note is like, so we're talking about, kind of what to expect when you're up on the platform. So when you get up on the platform, your judges are about anywhere from 10 to 20 feet away. And not all your judges are going to speak your language, right? A lot of them don't. Okay. So know that you're going to have to probably hold the bell overhead a lot longer than you are used to, and be adaptable to that, to know that
Yeah.
some judges are going to be more critical of your lockout and how long they want you to lock out for, than other judges. And you're going to have situations where you're struggling to figure out what they're wanting from you, right? And sometimes you just kind of have to go with it and just know you're going to lose some reps and try and adjust as best you can. Just for, like when your timer goes out, well, you have to have something else in place to be like, okay, how am I going to maintain my reps? Maybe a partner
Mm.
that's standing in the back, like telling you kind of like when you need to do the next one,
Yeah.
because stuff like that happens.
It
Um,
does. I think it's important when you first step on the platform, and I got this from, when I was doing karate. So when you walk onto the court, you have to bow to your judge. So when my very first competition, that was instinct, is that, you bow to your judge, and you have to make that, I make that eye contact with them. So then you kind of have this rapport with your judge, because you have to work with your judge. You can't work against your judge, because they'll pull you up if you're not listening to what they're telling you. They will just keep no repping you if you're not listening, or you're
mhm.
trying to, you know not saying it's arrogant, but just going, no, this is how I normally do it, I'm just going to stick to that. Well, they're trying to help you. They'll, most of the time,
Usually
well,
they
I
are
think all the
pretty
time
helpful.
oh yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
I've had, like, last year I was getting no reps a lot, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I had to go back and look at, well, it was actually wiggling overhead, where I
Mhm.
didn't feel it. But that's, you've got to learn and adapt to those situations as well. And yeah, look, it is hard, and it can be frustrating up on the platform when you're not understanding what the judges are trying to tell you. Most times they'll use hand gestures, and yeah, you just got to, yeah. Yeah, and you just got to understand that they're not trying to be mean or anything like that. It's just, because your adrenaline's rushing, and you're so used to a certain way. And the world championships are very strict, and that's great, and that's how it should be. It's not get it up, get a rep. We you want to make
Mhm.
sure that when you have finished, that you've done the best that you possibly can. And very rarely will you get a PB on the world stage. You'll get a world championship PB, but most times it won't be a PB overall. It's very rare that will happen, because there's so much more at play. You're worrying about, other competitors, which you shouldn't. You should usually just try and focus on you.
Yeah,
But
but
there's
you're
so
watching
many.
to the side of you. You're like, okay, how much faster do I need to go? Can I keep my pace? Like, where am I falling within? Because obviously you're trying to win, you don't want to just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a competition against
And
yourself, but it's a competition. Like you're
yeah,
wanting to
so
make
it's
the
like there's
platform or
so
the
many.
podium.
yeah, so there's so many things that you have to take into consideration when you're up there. But I think that very first initial engagement with your judge, for me, that's what I've found is super important, is to have that connection with your judge, because then it's like you're a team, because you have to work together to get to the end. And you can play around and push it to see, to see where you're at, but they'll always pull you up if you're going too fast, or you're not marking the rack, or you're not stopping overhead quick enough. Those type of things are if there's, if you push press or whatnot. And yeah, and if they say it, acknowledge, like nod to them that you acknowledge what they're saying. So then when you do it again, they'll nod to you, going, or they'll give you a thumb or
Mm-hmm.
thumbs up or stuff to let you know that, okay, you've acknowledged. So then you've got that rapport the whole way through. And then always at the end, I always thank them for judging, because they're, at the end of the day, they're giving up their time to be there
I was
to.
just gonna say that, like, you've been a judge, and you
Mm,
generally judge at competitions, and so these judges are basically judging all day long, right? And so
mm,
events, flights start at like 8 a.m. and sometimes they go all the way up until like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And so those judges are just as stressed because they're sitting there watching rep after rep after rep, and they
mm,
get some breaks, but they're not getting a ton of breaks. So
yeah,
know that it's also hard for them. They're having to
yeah,
struggle through with you. I mean, if
yeah.
you've ever
And it's
watched
and
a
it's
half marathon set, I mean, it's a struggle to judge that,
oh
because
yeah.
how do you stay focused the whole time, especially on snatch, because they're going so fast. Oh, I
Yeah, and it is, and I think it's an important thing for athletes to do as well, is judge. Like in Australia at our comps, we have a rule, is you have to judge as much as you lift. So me lifting a lot, I'm like lifting, judging, and it's important because that actually makes you a better lifter. Because when you're a judge, and then when you lift, you actually have to set a high standard for yourself, because you're being a judge, you're going to get judged. Going, is she gonna do shit reps and get away with it? So it, for me, that's been a game changer, and that's why I'll always lift at a world championship, and it's so nerve wracking. I find that more nerve wracking than actually competing, because you've got that athlete's you know career in your hands. So you have to make sure that you're being fair to them, but you're also being fair to everyone else that they're competing against. And because it's so quick, you have to be switched on and like on it, because if you're not, they'll the head judges will pick you up on that as well. So
yeah,
it's the learning process.
Dan said that he judged 26 flights
Yeah,
on the Friday that he was signed up to judge. So I mean, like, that's a lot of flights, you know.
yeah.
Um
And that and
so
that
I
and
was
that's
gonna
quite draining as well,
mhm.
mentally
And those
draining.
people are still lift, not all of them, but a lot of those people still lift, like they're
Mm,
lifting and they're judging. Maybe not that same day, but they're usually. So I think since we're talking about judging, so another important thing to note is that if you have issues with judging, you want to make sure that you are filming your sets, and you have to make sure that the judge and your timer and with your counter, along with your whole body, are visible in this film. Because if there is an issue and you're like, no, my judge fell asleep and they didn't count 30 of my reps, or something, that you have a video to go back, because in order to contest your score, you have to have video already of it, and you have to go pay for them to relook at it. Now, something to keep in mind is that when they relook at it, they're not only going to look at those 30 missed reps. So they're going to go back with a video, which is like the worst way to get judged, because you can stop it, start it, and you can really like look at it. They're going to go back and watch the video, and they're going to recount your whole set. So you may not want to do it. I mean, I guess if it's a chance between first place and second place or something, might be worth it.
mm,
But they could come back and you might have a worse score than what you had, because then they're gonna be more critical of watching. Whereas your judge that's going through it, they're doing it on the fly, watching, trying to watch your lockout, trying to watch your feet, trying to watch your knees, so they're looking at a lot of things at once. And they're also about 20 feet away from you. So
Yeah.
versus, on the film, and they also are filming as well. So, but that's a good thing to like go ahead and get a video of it. So if you wanted to contest it, you can, because it's got
Yeah.
to be done that same day that you lifted. Because what they'll do, especially with the WKSF, you'll have, a flight of a certain amount of lifters in a certain categories. And then partially the way through the day, they'll take a quick break and they'll do the medals. Another important thing is to make sure you are present to get your medal.
Yes, definitely. There was a few that were missing.
Well, it's really hard to hear. So
Mm.
basically, like, you just have to go back to the back area. First of all, you need to kind of know like what your score was and kind of how others were doing. So, and that's going to be kind of up to like your team to kind of watch and be like, hey, we think you got third. But if you're not sure, that you've got to go stand on the back and you have to wait and listen for your name. And sometimes it is really hard to tell what they are saying because a lot of times they have an accent and they're not saying your name the way you would say your name. So you have to kind of like listen for your body weight category and the lift and then be like, I think that was my name. Because if you're not there for your medal, in order to get it, like
Yeah.
your team captain has to go talk with the administrators and be like, hey, my person wasn't here. And, and you lose the benefit of going to stand up on the podium with everybody that you competed with. And now you
Yeah.
can still get a picture on the podium, but it's not
That's not
quite
the
the
same.
same as, especially if you were
Yeah.
first and you missed it, that they don't play your national anthem, they'll be
Yeah.
just second, third place up there and you're not there. So, um, let's see. So we'll move on to the second day. Is there anything you want to say about long cycle day
Uh, uh,
that
I
would be
think
helpful?
yeah. So I find the first day is so full of nervous energy because long cycle is, I think, the biggest day, apart from obviously the marathon, but that kind of peters out by the third day. But the first day is just, it's intense. There's all that. If you're someone like me that absorbs people's energies, it can be quite a lot. So you've got to work out a way to sort of deal with that all that energy that's around you, and the heat, and yeah, it's just it can be a lot the first day. So if if you are lifting second or third day, it's always important to obviously be there to support your teammates, but be able to find time to sort of decompress a little bit, go outside, get fresh air, and then come in when you have to, just to sort of be able to allow yourself to stay as calm as possible. So yeah, because it's all that, everyone's anticipation of competing, and yeah, it's quite full on the first day. So yeah, that's
And
about the only other thing.
you said this already, but keep in mind, like, obviously everybody's going to try and get their personal best, but you're only as good as you are on the day that you are lifting. And to be honest, like, you are not going to be your best self on that day. You're eating food that you don't normally eat. You're staying in not your normal bed. You didn't have your normal warm up. You're not lifting at the normal time that you lift. And to keep that in mind and don't be so hard on yourself, I've kind of realized, like, I used to get really frustrated, because I would have my really good sets or my at, smaller competitions, because it's a lot less stress. It's usually only one day. To just go and like, hey, I'm gonna get what I get, right? And I just want to go and have a good set. And if it's not, I need to accommodate how I'm feeling. And so if I'm starting to go, at a set pace and I'm starting to get tired too quickly, okay, I have to know, like, I'm going to have to back it off. And just, you're going to have to be okay with that, because it is very
Yeah.
different, than your normal competition.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, is that acceptance of knowing that stuff will happen on the day, and it may not go your way, but you just got to accept what happens. And if you beat yourself up about it, yeah, it's just gonna take up brain space. So just know that, yeah, what happens on the day happens on the day. You know, so it happens, put it aside. Don't let that
If your
affect.
teammate forgets to come and shock your hands during your 30-minute set, you know, you're just going to have to like figure it out and just deal with not getting the shock while you're yelling at them and screaming like, what the hell are you doing? And they're looking at you and you're yelling at them. Poor Ginger, she'll never
No.
let that down. I'm
We love you, Ginger.
at the moment I was like so pissed. I was like ready to just throw the bells down and just be like, forget it. I don't even care anymore. Okay, so moving on to the second day, which is going to be biathlon. So that on this day you'll be doing jerk and snatch, or if you're just snatching, then you'll be just doing snatch that day. The setup is very similar. They'll do like all the jerk lifters from amateur, masters, and then professional, and then they'll do all the snatch lifters. And then I think on the second day there was also a relay.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
So, and just know if you have a team and you want to do the relay, it's a professional relay. So in order to do it, you have to have enough professional lifters in order to make up a team to do a relay. That kind of sucks because it limits like, you know, but I can see like there would be a shit ton of teams if it was amateur, because everybody'd be like, okay, let's all go do it, you know? So, but there's a relay at the end.
Yeah. It'd be nice if they did it, but they said, okay, each country can only have one team. So they can have one amateur male team, you know, one amateur female, or mixed, however they did
And
it.
you
I think it'd be
need,
nice.
was it 5 lifters?
Yeah, 5. Yeah. So we could have had an amateur, because we had enough amateurs. Because I think Cheryl and I were the only elite professional lifters. The rest were all amateur. So we could have had an amateur team, but yeah. So the WKSF have the just professionals, where IUKL has amateur and professional relays, and they have multiple ones too. So they have the long cycle, they have the biathlon. I'm not 100% sure on the WKSF whether they have the long cycle.
I think maybe
They
it was
did
all
long cycle. It was long cycle. They didn't do anything else.
I was trying to think
I
if there
judged.
was if there was an intermixed one where they did like, hey, first, but I think that was at a totally different competition that I did that.
Yeah, no, it was purely long cycle, because I had to judge that one and I was so nervous having to judge it. So yeah.
So when you go to these competitions, everybody's trying to like place for their country. So usually there's anywhere from 20 to 30 countries that show up. And I'm not 100% sure on the scoring, but the way I understand it is that they basically for each medal that you get, there's a certain number of points. Okay, so we'll just say first place is worth 50 points. Second place is worth 40, 30, 20, and then it goes 19, 18. So if you're in 19th place, you get a point or whatever. And then it's really important to have professional lifters, because you can have as many as you want professional lifters for your score, your team score. So if you've got 10 professional lifters, all their points count towards your team score. They only take like the top 7 medals for amateur lifting. And so if you've got a really large team, but it's all amateur, you can still do pretty well, but you're going to be limited on how many points you can actually achieve. And so I think there was a couple years like we didn't know that. And so you're like, oh, we just need to lift more lifts, you know, which is why this year I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do all the professional lifts, and that'll at least get us like so many points. And then I was like, dang, I should have just done marathon again. And
I was hoping to be bloody doing jerk with you this year, because you said last year you were going to do jerk with me. So I was like, and you
should have called me. I probably, if you would have asked, I would have done it.
Next year.
You know, yeah. My toxic trait is that if you ask me, I probably will do it. I won't volunteer, but if you ask me, I'll probably do it. So I won't volunteer to help you move. I won't volunteer to help you move your house. But if you ask me, I'll bitch about it, but I will come do it. So, so yeah, so that second day is biathlon. So you'll do jerking first, the first part of the day, and the snatching will be at the end of the day. Everything's really kind of similar that day to the first day, unless you're at the Poland Championships and they were using air horns, which was the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Yes.
So if I could
Yes,
request that we do not have air horns at the next championship, that would be amazing.
that
But
yes,
they were super excited, so that's always good that you know
yeah.
your team's out there cheering. And Australia is usually annoying too because they get super loud and they're doing all their chants. And I'm
Yeah,
talking shit. I'm talking shit, but I
yeah.
definitely have chanted with them. So, because they have just
Yeah,
such a good chant, it's
yeah.
so, but that your
Oh,
team's out there cheering and getting into it. So I mean that's the other
yeah.
exciting part about it, is that everybody's up there like getting excited for their athletes, and trying to like use hand signals to let them know they need to go faster because the person down at the very end has 2 more reps than them. um
I
so
I need
it's
to understand those hand signals because Sylvia was like, I'm like, is he
go
telling me to
faster.
go up or is he going, I'm doing okay? I don't know. I don't
Do I need to
understand.
lock
I'm
out
just like,
longer?
I was like, in the end, I'm like, whatever, dude. And he's throwing the flag, and I'm like, oh, I just don't
I was
understand.
doing
It's too
this.
much.
And I have no idea
That
that my lifter
that I
even
could
knew what I was
understand.
doing. Go faster.
Yeah,
Or that they
I
could
could.
even see me.
It is.
So
It's such a haze when you're up there. It's just you don't know. It's just like it's almost like information overload. There's noise. There's hands. There's yelling and screaming. You're like, was that for me? I don't know. Was it? And then you kind of, oh, was it for someone down there?
So,
It's a lot.
important thing to note is like, when you go to these competitions, you don't always necessarily have like your significant other or a friend or a coach. You might be there by yourself with just your team, that a lot of people you've just met. So it's good in the beginning to kind of like single out somebody to be like, hey, I need help with this and you're not lifting during my set. Could you do this for me? So,
Yeah,
for example, when my husband's there, because he is usually at the competitions, sometimes I have trouble keeping track of my breath count or the rep number that I'm on for the minute, because I don't watch the timer. My rep count is determined by how many breaths I take. And so I will do a set number of breaths. For example, like for 10 reps a minute, it's like 4 or 5 breaths in rack. And so that's how I keep my pace. But then I don't really know if I'm falling behind a little bit or I'm ahead, because it's just going off of how my body feels and that breath count. So if I start getting really tired and I start breathing shorter or longer, it's going to adjust my reps a little bit.
yeah,
So Jake will stand, in the back, and he'll be up there counting whatever rep I'm trying to get to, if I'm trying to get to 10 or 6 or whatever, and then he'll start over. So I'll know that, oh, I only got 9 that minute, but to have somebody that is able to do, just like when your timer went out, that is able to do those things for you to help you keep track. One year he was helping me keep my breath count. Like he was like
yeah,
watching me. He's like, what's your 4th breath? Because it's like you're up there and all this stuff is happening around. You're like, oh shit, was that 3 or was that 4? I don't know. And so just to be
yeah.
able to look out and be like, okay, nope, it's time for me to do another rep. Because sometimes I get like tunnel vision where I'm just like thinking about things and
Yeah, it is. Your brain can just go elsewhere, and I think I'm always, if I don't have someone there, I just try and focus on one point in front of me, whether it's a letter or a person, and then I have to talk to myself and go, right, that's 1, 2, count and go, right, that minute's gone, right, next minute, and just constantly just stay there. You really learn how to stay in your head when you don't have a significant other or someone there to help you. You have to, again, be prepared for anything and know that you don't have your comfort, there with
Mhm.
you. Like here in Australia, my like Silvio, Lauren, and Becky know that if my eyes start going elsewhere, I'm struggling. So they'll just go eyes, and I go, oh, bang, bring my eyes back, and then I'm back on. Or Lauren will just say breathe, because they know how I lift with my breath. And if my breathing starts to go funny, they'll just go breath. So it's just those little triggers. It's enough just to sort of slap you back in and bring you back to where you need to be. It's yeah. So it's finding, preparing for everything, knowing that, okay, if I have my person there, I can do this. If my person's not there, this is what I need to do. And if this happens, this is what I'll need to do. So yeah.
So just so people, if you've never been to a world championship, so if you go up there and you do your lift, everybody will walk out, and then everybody will start at the same time. If for some reason like you don't make it to your 10 minutes, that you end up stopping early, or you drop or throw a bell or something like that, so the standard is that you will just basically, you could bow or do a little wave or whatever you're going to do, but you'll walk back behind the little placards that are there, and you'll walk off the stage. Because at some competitions, people will stay up there and like kind of cheer on the people next to them, but that's not really the standard when you're at the world competitions. And they'll kind of like,
the judge will say, yeah, go away.
You need to go.
Yeah.
So is there anything about the second day that you think is important to note? Maybe we should talk about the evening portion.
Oh, yes. So yeah. So usually the first day the energy is like really intense. The second day the energy is a lot more sort of subdued. Like the
third day we're just surviving.
Yeah. A few hangovers and stuff. But yeah, generally the Saturday is they'll have the general meeting. So all the reps from each country will stay behind for the I think they call it the General Assembly. I don't know what they call it.
I think it's called the General Assembly. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the representatives will stay for that. I think it's live streamed on YouTube. And then while they're doing that, everyone else is back in the hotel getting ready for those that go to the gala dinner. Each year the gala dinner's been different. So I think one year we all caught a bus to this tiny little building.
Don't talk to people about that. They don't want to remember.
No.
So the gala dinner is basically like a banquet. And so ideally like all the teams show back up, you get kind of a little bit dressed up, and then you get to meet with everybody, you have a dinner and have some drinks and, go over like the main part, because I don't want to say people that do marathon will be like, that's not the main part. They're just like the main part of the competition. And then but they have it, at different locations, because it's kind of up to the host country to set it up. And sometimes they're really amazing, and other times they're less.
Not so. Yes. But look, I think it's how you enjoy it yourself, and what you sort of prepare yourself for. But it's, for me, it's just a chance to let your hair down and catch up with your friends from around the world, and or get to know other people, because you when you're up on the platform there, people get this, I can't talk to the other competitors, where I'm like, I'll talk to everyone, I'll encourage everyone, I'll encourage my fellow lifters. I'm like, what do you need? And they're like, I need this. Cool, well, you better get it. So and that's what I love, is that we have that rivalry, but we kind of help each other. And I don't ever want to have this thing of, I can't talk to my competitor. That's just not who I am. But I find that these are the gala dinners, it's a chance to sort of sit down and really get to know them, and build that rapport and those friendships, because ultimately that's what the World Championships are about. It's not only about you performing,
and honestly, that's
you.
What keeps you coming back, is like that's definitely what makes the positive experience, is like you getting to know the other people from the other countries. You'll find that you start like bringing things with you to like give away,
I'm just
or
like giving everything away.
You're taking the shirt off your back,
Hey, let's get that clear. You gave me yours.
I did give you, I thought you were going to wear it today, but you didn't. So that's fine.
I did. And I forgot to put the video up. I lifted last weekend for half an hour, and I actually wore it. And at the end,
Oh,
I'll find it. I went, "Thank you, Kim." I will
so,
post
but
that
you'll
video
find
for
that
you
you're
today.
bringing stuff. Australia brought these super cute little koalas that were like clips, and you could clip them onto your clothes. They're
Yeah,
really dumb, but they were so cute, and everybody wanted one. They're like, we want a koala.
yeah,
And so you'll get these things, and you'll trade with other countries. You'll trade shirts to get a shirt from Brazil or a shirt from Italy, or sometimes they trade shorts. Like, it's all kinds of stuff. So you're walking
yeah,
away
and
with like,
that's what I love about it too. Like I think this year I got, I think like 9 different country T-shirts, which I love.
dang.
You know, so
So, I
and
mean,
that's such a
that
good
really is
part
what
of it
makes it.
too.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That
definitely.
that's what always keeps me, I think, coming back, is because like that part of it is really the most. I mean, you get to go lift, like that's great, but we all know, like, when you get done lifting, you're like, I feel like I hate this.
Yeah, and I'm never doing this again. Oh, look, another competition.
But the experience that you have with those people there, and then you see them again later, and you kind of create like these friendships where everybody's had to deal with like the same stressors for the day, and so you just kind of rekindle this like shared
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, it's like a debrief of what's happened there. You talk about, oh man, this happened in my lift, and I had to do this and that, and then so yeah, you trade those stories, and it is a complete debrief, and it makes you feel like, well, we all go through the same, like because at that time when something does happen or it doesn't go your way, you feel like you're the only one it's ever happened to,
Mhm.
but then when you start talking to other people, you go, it's
Oh, that
it's
judge
happened
no
to them
counted me
too.
like 6 times, and you're like, yeah, so did mine, dude. It's fine. That's
Yeah,
normal.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you didn't
It's
get a
like
no count, were you even here?
exactly.
Okay, so moving on to the third day. So the final day is marathon. So that's when
Yeah,
all the marathon lifts happen. Usually that day is pretty long, because obviously marathon is 30 minutes
plugging
long.
us in.
So each lift is three
Yeah,
times longer than the other lifts were. So an important thing to note for marathon is that you can only chalk at certain times at the WKSF. So at some world championships, so this is important for you to look at the rules prior to going. Some competitions for marathon, you can chalk at any point in time you want. You can wear a little chalk bag on your back, and you can just reach back there and chalk and keep going. At WKSF, you can only get water and chalk at the 10-minute and the 20-minute mark. And if your person misses that time, you don't get it
ginger.
back. So, and there's only like, there's about, I don't know, maybe 3-4 minutes that you're allowed to go up there. Also, you
Yeah,
are
so
not,
three
as the
minutes.
person providing the chalk, you are not allowed to step on their platform. I got yelled at. So I had my foot, like the edge of my toe, on the platform, and they're like, ah, no. But and if you're the person chalking, I found the easiest way to chalk the person's hands is for you to get your bag of chalk. You take a handful in your own hand and rub it on their hands, rather than having to reach in and grab and try and rub it on their own hands. That way it gets in all on all their hand. It makes a mess, and you just grab a handful of chalk, rub it on their hand, rub it up their arms, whatever. Um, Ask them if they want water. What was this called again?
Fluffing.
The fluffer.
Uh,
Yes,
the
yes.
fluffer. Yeah.
It's
So
very
it's
similar
an
to a porn, except for there's no bodily fluid exchange. So
yes.
just
It's a very honored position to be asked to be a fluffer, Ginger. Um,
so,
sorry, Ginger.
somebody Croft actually said it to me. He's like, oh, are you the fluffer? And I was like, excuse me, am I the what? He's like, the fluffer. And I was like, is that what you guys call this? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think that on the day
I
they
was
call them
calling it the
assistants.
assistant, but
Yeah.
but yeah, so you'll go up there at the
Mm,
10-minute and the 20-minute mark, and you'll have a couple minutes to give them water, chalk their hands, and then basically get off the platform.
yeah.
You're not allowed to bring
It's
any, I think you can bring a towel up. Can you bring a towel up? I think you can
yeah,
bring a towel.
yeah. I think, but you're not allowed to touch the athlete at all, apart from applying chalk.
Okay.
You can't wipe them down. they have to do that themselves. Yeah, you can't
But they can
like
use a
make
towel
out.
and wipe their face. Yeah.
Yeah, and then give that back to the flopper. But it's quite a stressful job because you kind of and it happened to me at our championships early this year is that when you're doing long cycle, you've got to remember when you've cleaned and then you've chalked, you've got to go up. And if you forget that, it's like no rep. And
Well, if you forget and you drop it from overhead like you do a snatch, it's the end of your set.
Yes, illegal. I know. That is the hardest. I had to on the Saturday I had to ask an athlete to stop because they did an illegal hand change, and you came to my mind straight away. But it was terrible to have to do it, but it's part of that. It's the rules. So
it happens to the
yes,
best of us,
it does. Look, it does.
it
It
happens to the
does.
best of us.
Yeah.
It's a learning experience.
It is. And knowing that again, when that stuff happens, it happened and you can't take it back, it's done. And you've just got to, try and push it aside.
Luckily,
the
it's the last
fluffing,
day, so
yeah. But the fluffing windows, can be quite intense too, because the athlete can be going through, a lot of self-talk, a lot of, telling themselves that they can't get through, they're just going to put the bell down, and it's the fluffer has to kind of pep them up and, tell them, oh, you're doing okay, you're doing great, where you know that they're not, but you still have to sort of encourage them to continue because you didn't come all
you
that
don't want them
way.
to get soft, they got to keep it
No,
going for the rest of the
yeah.
competition.
Yeah, and I always say finishing is winning. In the 30, I mean, I love doing 30 minutes, and I also love doing the 10-minute events. And the I think the 30-minute lifts teach you to become a better lifter because things happen in those 30 minutes that you have to alter and change, where you get a hand tears or you start to get hot spots. So then you have to learn how to let the bell slip into a different position in your hands and hand changing. Sometimes people do unsnatch when they do it on the way down, which scares the shit out of me. I don't know how people do that, but you could have a hand tear or your hands could be super wet, so there's a chance that you're going to
Or in
drop the
Dan's
belts.
case, where you do have a hand tear and you rip it off with your teeth.
Oh, I've seen that many times. Like they're hardcore. I mean, I'm lucky. I haven't had too many hand tears. When I have, it's just because I've been fatigued or there's other stuff at play. But yeah, I've been able to adapt around when the hands start to get warm. But knowing, and you can change your thought process too. In that, well, like Silver and I had. We were going to chalk every 10 minutes. We were going to do chalk, but then you come up and I noticed that my competitor, she was only 5 reps behind me. So I'm like, well, she's not fluffing, I'm not fluffing, because if you fluff, you don't get, it's time.
Yeah, you're stopping reps. Yep.
Yes,
It's
I was like, I've got to
2 to 5 reps that you're losing.
Oh,
easily.
definitely. So you knowing that, well, can I? Because you have to think on the fly. It's like, can I survive another 10 minutes, or can I survive with not having a drink or not chalking? I've always trained to try to not chalk, because again, it's time is reps, and reps can decide whether you finish first or last, or getting your rank. So it's making those decisions, going, can I get through? Yes, I can. Okay, thanks for coming, but I don't need you, sort of thing. Or they just come up for moral support. Silver's up there just like saying some funny stuff to me.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah,
Well, we
so
probably should wrap it up a little bit just because we're over the hour mark.
Yeah.
Is there any specific things that you think that we haven't already covered that you should know while you're at the competition, before the competition,
Look, I just think always be prepared for anything to happen. Always, train in different circumstances, train with the shittiest music that you've ever heard, train with the same song over and over and over and over and over again. Because if
Which
you
is
get
what
used
you
to
get
going,
at the world competition, because they're trying to use music that isn't copyrighted. So at ours, we had this awesome semi-porn music, 80s porn. that played over and over and over
Yeah,
again.
it reminded me a bit of Seinfeld, that kind of base in the Seinfeld. But yeah, just preparing for all those, preparing that, it could be hot, it could be cold, you know,
I don't think it's ever been
lots of
cold.
no, no, no. I don't know
It's
where I
always
got
hot.
that from. But yeah, look, prepare for anything. Always take what you need, because never rely that they're going to have what you need there. So your chalk, your what do you call it, sandpaper. I have cloths. I always buy a little bottle when I'm there, so it's less stuff I have to take. Just go to a cheap shop. There's $2 shops. They'll have a little spray bottle that you can get. If you take electrolytes, making sure that I take my own, so knowing that you might not get the brand that you used to. And also, yeah, I guess, because now that they are pushing with the drug testing, that if wine and gin was performance enhancing, I'm as guilty as charged. But knowing, that there could be a chance that you could be drug tested, and like I've even changed the protein powder that I buy, that it's batch tested, so that that you don't want to ever have that opportunity to, you've had a protein powder or a pre-workout that's contaminated with something that's not on the list. So understanding that side of things as well. I think we've always been clear in all the drug testing so far, and I think it's it's an important thing for people to have in the back of their minds, to know that can happen at a world championship, and to just be mindful of the stuff that you're
That's a good
taking.
point, to just so everybody knows, like, they do have drug testing at Worlds. They take the test different ways depending on where you go. WKSF, the last 2 times have been like a blood draw. IUKL, all the ones I've gone to have been urine tests. But if you're a professional lifter and you get first place, they will drug test you. And if you're an amateur lifter, there's usually a basically like random set of, we'll say 8 lifters that get tested. And so you'll be randomly selected and they'll send a list out. So keep that in mind, that, you will have to be drug tested while you're there. It's kind of nice for the blood test, because usually they'd come and get you right after you lift and you've been peeing all day because you have like this nervous energy of getting ready to go, and you've gone to the bathroom like 20 times, and they're like, we need urine. And you're like, I don't have any fluid left in my body. And so you're downing bottles
Yeah,
and bottles of water to try and be able to,
yeah,
well, that happens to me every time
yeah.
that you
But
gotta go
even,
pee.
yeah,
So,
that can be quite a for someone that's not used to, or that's been through that process before, to know that, well, they've actually got to watch you pee, and that can be quite embarrassing or very uncomfortable if you're not used to that.
you're
It's
on your
quite
period,
confronting. Yeah,
you'll still have to do the drug test. Like, just,
yeah, and they can't turn away. They have to watch the stream.
mhm.
So that's why blood for me is just like,
I know, when I
take
found
it.
out the one
It's
time, I
there.
was like, you're doing a blood test? That's awesome. And they're like, you're excited about this? I'm like, yes, it's great.
Yeah,
And also, they didn't ask on this one, but when I've done some of the other drug tests, make sure, like this time I took pictures of all the medications that I take, because at the one drug test, they were like, you need to list out your medications. And I was like, what's the name of that one? And I didn't have hardly any phone service. And so I was like trying to somehow Google to figure out like the medications that I was taking. And so this time I was like, I took pictures of them so I could pull them up and be like, okay, this is what it is.
yeah,
So, because sometimes you will have to write that stuff down. Oh, and
yeah,
at WKSF, I don't think they do this at IUKL, but WKSF, you're required to have a doctor's note prior to lifting. So they don't really care what kind of doctor does it. I had an anesthesiologist do mine. But you basically need a note from a doctor or a PA or a nurse practitioner, that says that you are healthy enough to lift. And then when you do your check-in at weigh-ins, you turn in that doctor's note.
yeah,
So, just but
yeah. But
well,
yeah, just be prepared. Be prepared for anything, and learn to adapt. That's how the advice I would give for anyone that's going to World Championships for the first time, or that are continually going. Just always learn to adapt.
mhm. Yeah, no, definitely.
So,
Well, Cindy, I really appreciate you coming on here. Like, like I've said before, the people that come on here to talk about lifting, whether we're talking about technique, programming, or whatever, they all come on here and share their knowledge for free and give up their time. And in Cindy's case, she's up super early because she's in Australia. So it was like 7:30 a.m. when we started this talk.
yeah.
So, but I really appreciate you getting up early
Oh no,
and
I'm always happy
getting
to
all
have
dressed
a
up for
chat and
us.
you know.
Cindy's like one
Yeah.
of my favorite people. So she's
Oh,
always
thank
very
you.
positive at competitions. She's always willing to help out. And so it's hard to not have a good time when you're around her because she has a very positive energy.
Oh, thank
So
you.
if
I
you ever get a
appreciate that.
chance to go to a world competition, you can be like, I saw you online.
I'm always happy for people to reach out and ask questions and
You know what you
yeah.
didn't do this competition though? I saw no face makeup, no
I
face
know
glitters.
I completely forgot to put it in because I'm actually in between moving house, so it was all kind of packed. So
I was
I
severely
didn't bring it.
disappointed and you let me down.
I'm
So
sorry. I will make sure next year I will have the whole. But I did have glittery shoes though. Did you not notice my
good.
painted shoes? That's my new thing is painting shoes with glitter.
Apparently my husband is telling me it's time to be done because he brought me down a drink.
Where's
So
mine? What have we got?
I don't actually know what this is. What is this? Oh, he went to the bathroom. It's kind of tastes strange. I'm not sure what it is, but it does taste very strong. So anyways, Cindy, I really appreciate you coming on. Like I
No,
said,
I
I
appreciate
always
you
enjoy
asking.
talking to you. Hopefully people thought at least this was somewhat entertaining and they got something out of it. There's probably so many more things that we can talk about for worlds. And honestly, if you have a question, like please just put it in the comments and I will try and go through and answer them. I'll also upload this to YouTube. I've been filming them now so we can add them onto YouTube. And I have like a what do you want to call that, a podcast or some shit, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I'll reshare it, so anybody that missed it or if you want to watch it again to see the hand gestures, you can go back and see it. Or me talking about spitting on the bells. So
Yeah.
sometimes you got to do what you got to do,
You
and
do. Well,
it's the world competition, so you just got to make it work.
exactly. Adaption. See, it's all about adaption.
Yep. So, okay, well, I'll let you go so you can finish out your day, and I
I
hope you have
will.
a good rest of your weekend because I think it's Sunday there. Is it Saturday? It's Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
Saturday?
Sunday,
Yeah.
yes. I'll
So
just
you only
prepare
got
for
one
the
more
week now.
day
And
of
yeah.
freedom.
So yes. But I love
Okay,
what I
well,
do. So yeah, it's
well,
good.
that's good. All right, well, I will talk to you
Uh,
later.
no
Bye.
worries. Thanks.